here, just going to shoot a quick screenshot video of the rest of the transform tools that we used in class today. Remember, Friday we'll be building our event posters in class, so make sure you have all the assets you need, all the text, the date, the time, the location, all the images that you need in order to produce your event poster. So let's go in. We're going to go in and do our first technique. We're going to highlight this. We're going to change the color. I'm going to sample kind of a light color from our image here. So I'm going to pick a really soft blue, I think. So we'll do that. We'll crank this up. So let's see what we have. Let's do, so we already have bold. So let's go, I think it was like 160 or so inside of our image. Let's do that, which is center align. I'm actually going to go into my type properties over here, and I'm going to change the space between the lines. So I'm going to make them closer together. So let's go like, let's try 90. Now this could be really drastic if I let the letters touch. So let's just go like 110, so they're just off touching. And so here it is. And we're going to control click over here and rasterize our type. And remember the first now remember, scale is here. So we can do option key and scale it up, scale it down. We can rotate it inside of our bounding box. So those are our first two transform techniques, right? Which is right there. But we were using, for this particular part of the lecture, we were using the first one was skew. Let's make sure that we have our text rasterized, and we do. And so let's take our text and let's do skew. And remember, it's like pinching in the planes of a piece of paper. So I'm going to stretch this out, and get it on that plane and hit return. So there is my dates. So now we have transform, we have scale and rotate. We already did distort and perspective last class. So we did skew for this one. Now let's bring in the skeleton image like we did in class. So let's go in and find our little skeleton guy. Remember, we switched to the magic wand tool so we could select the subject, which is just like that. And we're going to do Command C. And then we're going to go over here. I'm going to put it under my text layer. So I'm going to do Command V, switch to the move tool, and hold down the option key to scale it. And then I'm going to put his little face right here off the page. And I'm going to hit return. Now for class, let's zoom out a little bit. For class, we did the warp, the straight warp for this particular image. So we bent out this using our directional anchors. We pinch that in. We're going to grab this corner and bend it out. And then we're going to use our directional anchors to kind of bend it. Now you'll notice I'm actually trying to fill the O inside of there. So you see how I could make it halfway, I could make it not at all, or I could fill it. If that was important to me to create some darkness in the negative space for this image, I would do that. I'm going to hit enter. Now in class, we went in and we changed the setting to exclusion. So now that shoulder doesn't matter here because it's kind of blended it out in the exclusion technique. So there's our warp. Now let's go in and do our scarecrow. So let's open up our scarecrow so that we can use the puppet warp. So we're going to select that. Now remember, that's an EPS file. So we have to change it to the appropriate size that we need. We actually could make this probably 152. So let's do that. So here he is. Remember, these checkerboards means transparency. So select all and copy, Command A, Command C, and then Command V. And here is our little scarecrow dude. We did hold down the option key and make him a little bit smaller. So he's kind of over in the corner over here. I'm going to hit enter. And then here is where we went in and did our puppet warp. So remember, he's covered in a grid pattern. So now we can add pins. So let's add a pin right here. Let's add a pin here. We can add one at his elbow. So we're creating, in essence, a bone structure. So neck, middle of head, top of head, corner of hat, corner of hat. We can go down his body. So we could make his kind of cape swoop a little bit. And so once we have those pins, we now can move his arms. So we'll do that. We can stretch it too, but I try to keep it in its general perspective. So actually, I think his arm would go this way, and then this arm would go this way. This is what we did in class, like that. And then we're gonna take this and bend that, take this and bend that, and then we can swoop his cape a little bit. We add an extra pin. We could swoop his tie a little bit, and then we can move his head so he kind of looks like he's running a little bit. Bend that out, bend this out, curve this. All right, there we go. So now we have him kind of running a little bit, gives him a little more personality. Looks like he's running away from the date. Let's move the date over here. Let's move the skeleton under the date. So now he is kind of running away from the scary boy. We have Pumpkin Patch and Maze. I probably could move that over a little bit so people know, you know, that. Let's move that over just a skosh. We can move him over just a skosh. That way you could still read the beginning of Patch. So I'm just doing layout now to make sure that I have everything covered. If I hide that, it makes it probably a world better. But we're doing it for technique purposes, just learning different techniques. And then the last one was the perspective. So let's just do it so that let me see if there's something in the ad I can use that is better statement than the full sentence. Copper Creek Farm. Let's just do since 1996. I know that the Pumpkin Patch stuff probably isn't since 1996, but it'll make it a little bit easier. So let's make it dark red so we can actually just sample the color that's in there. Actually, let's make it like an orange. I think that would be fun. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So let's just see what it looks like. I'm gonna move it over here. And I'm gonna wrap it around that building a little bit. So let's do that. And then we're gonna control click and we're gonna rasterize type. And then we're gonna go up and do our perspective warp. So I'm gonna take my first plane, draw it there. Take my second plane, draw it there. So that's good. And then I'm gonna warp. And then maybe I'll just bend it a little bit that way. Enter. And then I can move it in, kind of put it like that. And then I'm gonna put it under Skeleton Dude. I'm wondering if there we go. The plane is too sharp here. I can already see it. So let's do this. So I'm gonna zoom in. Looks like it's a little too drastic, but it's good to learn the perspective warp tool a little bit. I don't know, Let's see if I can do an overlay or something, just to give it a little drama. You get the idea. This little skeleton guy is running away from the pumpkin patch since 1996. All right, gang, I hope that reinforces our edit transform. So we covered in our edit transform, so let me just select one of the objects. We covered scale, rotate, skew, distort, perspective, and warp. And we tried the advanced perspective warp to give a little bit of angular dimension. And we used puppet warp to make our stiff scarecrow run. I hope you enjoyed this lecture.